What's going on, guys? Welcome back to the WrestleGasm YouTube channel. We are here with the second episode of the GWA 1992 series on Total Extreme Wrestling 2020. I just want to start things off by saying thank you guys so much for all the support on the first episode. As of recording this, we're at about, I think, 170 views, which I know in hindsight doesn't seem like a lot, but considering it was only the second video on our channel and we had no pre-existing audience coming into this channel, it really does mean a lot that you guys are showing your support, sharing the love for this series. And I'm sorry it's taken so long to get this next episode out, but we're here now. And yeah, let's get into it. I'm excited to show you guys what I booked. It's not like a special, it's not a great show, but it's kind of an introductory show. I think it sets us on the right path. Let's quit wasting time. Let's get into it. As you can see, we have come up with a name for our TV show, which is something I didn't do in the previous episode. It's called Showcase, which I think fits all the criteria. A show in the late 90s, a wrestling show, doesn't need to have something aggressive as the title. Like WWE at this time was still rolling with Saturday night's main event and primetime wrestling and stuff like that. So I think Showcase just kind of really fits the vibe of what we're going for. And as you guys can see, we've also got a logo now. I will be completely honest and say I was back and forth on whether I liked this logo or not, but over time it's grown on me a bit. So I think I'm happy with it. Let me know what you guys think. I'm always open rather to making changes, editing a bit, and yeah, just kind of seeing what we can do with it. I do like that it kind of matches the vibe, the color palette of the skin that I'm using, so that's really cool. But anyways, we're here for the first episode of Showcase. As you can see, we are on TLN in Canada and the USA network, which is huge for our first show. We've got pretty good coverage in the States. Not exceptional in Canada, but certainly better than everywhere else at the moment, so I'll take it. We are running in the Southwest, just in a generic venue. I thought it's only right that we work the Southwest for our first show, since that's the region where our company is based, just around California. But yeah, there was no venue that had a capacity that really suited the expected attendance, so I just went with generic, which we'll roll with for now. 2,300 people expected for the show. We are using cheap tickets, not very cheap, not free, not normal. We're going cheap because I do want to try and grow the company as quickly as we can and raise that popularity a bit. So if we make the tickets a little bit cheaper, we can get that done a bit quicker. Obviously, it would be done a lot quicker if I go free or very cheap, but we still want to earn a little bit of cash, a little bit of ticket sale money. With that being said, as you guys can see here, we do have quite a few people missing out on the show. That's largely in part to the fact that we are only running an hour-long show. I went with an hour because it just felt right, just kind of a primetime television program. It just felt like it needed to be an hour. I know obviously nowadays you're seeing 2-hour shows, 3-hour shows like Raw, but around this time, I think an hour perfectly suits. Obviously, if this becomes an issue and we need more time to book people, I will extend the show. But we'll see how it goes from there. There's also a few people here that are rather big names that aren't booked. Vader being a prime one. He is one of our biggest guys. As you can see, he's a major star and also literally one of our biggest guys. He is the most expensive member of the roster. I think the second most expensive, which is Jushin Thunder Liger, is half the price of Vader, somewhere around there. So but the reason I'm leaving Vader out, and to a lesser extent Jushin by the same logic, is that I just kind of want to run this initial show without them, see how much kind of profit we can make, how our finances look after the show, and just kind of get a gauge on it before we throw in the really expensive guys. But we do still have some top names on the card as well. So heading into the show, we are sitting at 2.502 mil. So we're doing reasonably well. Don't remember what the worker stuff was there, but that's probably me just paying off someone. It might have been Honky Tonk Man if I remember correctly. But yeah, I think it's time to jump into the first show. Like I said before, I'm excited to show you guys what I booked. I don't know how well this will do rating wise, but I've kind of got these stories slowly brewing in my head, so I want to try and lay the foundations for them with Showcase Episode 1. So with that being said, let's go and take a look. Alright, so we have 2,300 people on the dot in Southwest. We open with a pre-show bout that had decent wrestling but little heat. Cactus Jack defeated Chris Candido in 9 minutes and 3 seconds by pinfall with a double arm and DDT. Now, because we don't have a whole lot of TV time, I'm going to be making as much use of the pre-shows as I can. These initial pre-show matches are just to test out some people that I'd be interested in using in the long run. Candido and Cactus Jack are both people that I would love to use. I'm a big fan of both of them. Cactus Jack putting in a pretty solid performance. Chris Candido with a 40 could use a little bit of improvement, but I'm sure we'll get there at some point. 58 for the match. Very happy with that. We have a tag team match and a pre-show bout that had subpar wrestling and little heat. The Samoan SWAT team defeated Mike Anthony and Johnny Ace in 9:26 when Fatu pinned Johnny Ace with a double diving headbutt. So my logic behind this match was Samoan SWAT team won on the card, and they're a tag team that I really want to use and capitalize on. So I wanted to test them out. In terms of who they could face, Johnny Ace was the only babyface who I was really okay with jobbing out, and then there was really no one to pair with him, so I just signed Mike Anthony on a local one-night deal. Based on his performance, I can't see us signing Mike Anthony anytime soon, but we might bring him in for more jobber spots. We'll see how it goes. But Johnny Ace did reasonably well. Fatu could use a bit of improvement, but Samu was the star of the match. Now, final pre-show match, which was a decent pre-show match. Dynamite Kid defeated Bull Payne in 10 minutes and 5 seconds by pinfall with a diving headbutt. He got a bruised eye socket, which isn't good, but I don't think that'll take him out of action for very long, if at all. So that's something to keep in mind. It got a 50 as a whole. I was hoping for a little bit better. Dynamite Kid is one of our top faces, so I really wanted to test him out because he's not on the main show for this week, but I mean, his performance there was pretty good. Obviously, we don't know quite yet what the average of our matches is going to be and the average of our performances, so we can't really say quite yet whether it's a great performance, but so far I think it's the second best. I think only Cactus Jack has done better out of these 3 pre-show matches, but I'm sure we'll get a few topping them in the main card. Bull Payne not doing a terrible performance either, so we'll take that. But now we move on to the televised portion of the show. There's Bruno Sammartino, our road agent. Bull Payne got a lot of heat backstage after the bout, as it was his botch that caused Dynamite Kid to get hurt. Well, that's not great, but we'll deal with that later. Televised portion of the show, I decided to start with a segment just because that's kind of the way wrestling shows generally tend to work out. You draw them in with a segment to hype up something that's happening later in the show, maybe the main event, and that's what this is for. As you can see, Tully Blanchard and Chris Cruz are in this segment. Chris Cruz is not on our roster, but I will be signing him because it didn't really cross my mind until I was actually booking this show that I want an interviewer. I want like that traditional kind of 80s, early 90s retro wrestling style of interviewing, where you've got that little kind of set the whole audience can see. It's not backstage or anything. So that's kind of what's going to happen here. That's the Chris Cruz corner. That's not the official name, but that's just what I'm calling it. And you're going to see that several times throughout this show and throughout the rest of the shows. So yeah, we have Chris Cruz interviews Tully Blanchard ahead of his main event match against one of the longest reigning world champions in wrestling history, Bob Backlund. Tully reflects on his most successful run, which was his time with the Four Horsemen. He's grateful for the opportunities that it provided him, but now it's time for Tully to step out of Ric Flair's shadow and prove to the world that he's the best wrestler in the industry today. Naming himself the ultimate wrestler, Tully plans on starting his crusade by taking down Backlund and proving that his 6-year world title reign means nothing when compared to him. So we now know what Tully Blanchard's goals are in GWA. Kind of a basic goal in just proving that he's the best, but Tully feels like for so long he has been the best, but just because he's been aligned with these other people like the Four Horsemen and Ric Flair, that he hasn't had the chance to shine in that capacity. So that's what he's here to do. He's not gonna hide behind someone like Flair. Not that he was hiding before, but he's not gonna let anyone outshine him, basically. That gets a 44. I was hoping for a little better just compared to some of the matches we've seen. Obviously, we don't know what the angles are going to kind of look like comparatively, but Chris Cruz struggled when going off script. That's not great. We'll put him on script more often, but he does have a good mic stats. So with that being said, we move into the first match. And About that had a decent reaction from the crowd, but subpar wrestling. The New Breed defeated the Fantastics in 6:49 when Chris Champion pinned Tommy Rogers with a super kick. Bit of tag team action to start off the show. No story attached to this one. I just really wanted to, first of all, just test out these teams, but the New Breed are a team that I kind of have plans for in the long run. So it's a little bit disappointing that they're doing about half as well as the Fantastics. But it is a positive that the Fantastics are doing really well, so I might have to consider selling with them. But yeah, I just thought the New Breed, they're a pretty young team, so we could build them up and have them be a long-running staple of the tag team division. And, you know, not a great start, but we will get there. We move into another segment. Lou Albano, one of the greatest managers in the history of professional wrestling, makes his way out to speak with Chris Cruz. He begins by bragging about his many accolades, having successfully brought his many clients to over 24 tag team championship reigns throughout his career. But he doesn't know where he's headed in GWA. He has no client ready for him to take to the top of the mountain, so his plan is to observe the GWA roster and see who is worthy of working alongside the captain. It all starts right now, as he'll be watching the next match from ringside. Barry Horowitz takes on the Nature Boy, Buddy Landel. So yeah, Lou Albano is just looking for someone that he can manage and help take to GWA stardom. And he's going to start doing that by watching some matches by ringside, namely Horowitz and Landel. Landel, for anyone who doesn't know, of course he has the Nature Boy nickname, which you can see there, but he just kind of took it, really. I don't know if there's a whole lot of logic behind him having that name, but after Buddy Rogers and Ric Flair, he's just kind of the third Nature Boy. So we move on to a pole match. Buddy Landel defeated Barry Horowitz in 9:24 by pinfall with a roll-up. This is disappointing. I was really hoping for a little bit better from these guys. Both get 48s in performance. It's a 49 match. But yeah, roll-up pinfall is the main takeaway from this. Buddy Landel with a kind of cheap finish. Bit of an illegitimate victory. And so after the match, he's celebrating in the ring. And he looks over to Lou Albano as if to kind of seek his approval. Like he wants to see if Albano was impressed, because Landel would love to have Albano by his side. But Lou Albano kind of seems to be a bit disappointed by the finish of that match. And he heads backstage without acknowledging either of the participants. And Landel is just kind of stuck in the ring, just with a shocked expression on his face. It does come as a bit of a surprise to a lot of the wrestling audience, because Albano has been a heel for quite a lot of his career. He's been known to use some heelish tactics. So the fact that he gets upset by a flash pinfall is, a bit of a surprise. So he might have to search elsewhere for his new client. Back in the Chris Cruz corner, Jerry Lawler, he's entering for his match with Scott Armstrong, but he stops by the Chris Cruz corner first. Cruz asks Lawler about his goal in GWA, to which Lawler gives a simple response: to be the very best. He goes on to talk about how no one in the GWA is worthy of stepping in the ring with him. His cocky attitude is quickly solidifying him as the biggest heel in the company. Once he's done ranting about how great he is, Lawler picks up his crown, places it on his head, and makes his way to the ring ready to embarrass Scott Armstrong. So very similar to Tully Blanchard in that Jerry Lawler's goal is to prove that he's the best in the company, but in a lot more of an immoral way, ready to not just beat his opponents, but to embarrass his opponents and shame them. And just being the heel that, the fantastic heel that we know Jerry Lawler can be. So that gets a 56 rating, which I'm really happy with. We move on to the match. In a decent match, Jerry Lawler defeated Scott Armstrong in 7:59 by pinfall with a diving fist drop. Jerry Lawler with a 66. Comparatively, that's really good. I'll take it. He is one of the best guys on the roster. 55 for the match is not as good as I was hoping for, but I'll roll with it. To be honest, at this point, while we try and figure out what that kind of median of ratings is, I'm going to focus more on the actual description of the match. So the fact that it's a decent match, I'm happy with that. The other thing to note about this match is that Scott Armstrong has officially signed with WCW. So anytime we see him in a match between now and him leaving, he's pretty much just going to cop a loss. He's going to put someone else over. After this match, though, Jerry Lawler has just beaten Scott Armstrong, but it doesn't look like he's done yet. He lifts Scott up and prepares him for a pile driver to continue embarrassing him. But before Lawler can execute the move, his old rival Austin Idol emerges from the entranceway. They lock eyes until Idol approaches the ring, forcing Lawler to flee. Lawler wants nothing to do with his old nemesis right now, but Idol does. Idol doesn't tend to Armstrong, making it clear that he's only here for Lawler and nothing else. So for anyone who doesn't know, Austin Idol and Jerry Lawler had one of the biggest feuds of the 80s. I think at this point they've stopped feuding for a few years, but it was a very big feud in the territories. It was kind of an iconic feud, some steel cage matches, and so I just thought that'd be a pretty cool jumping off point for these guys. And yeah, 59 rating. I'll take it. It's Austin Idol is making it clear that he doesn't care about Scott Armstrong. He's not here to help Scott Armstrong. He's here specifically for Jerry Lawler. That said, we move on. Back in the Chris Cruz corner, Chris Cruz is interviewing Bob Backlund ahead of his main event match with Tully Blanchard. Backlund plays it up for the crowd, showing off his babyface nature, but the crowd is showing a lack of interest in him. It's as if people have forgotten about him. He's a wrestler of the past. Backlund talks about how this match will set the bar for the whole of GWA. He may have been out of the spotlight for a few years, but he's going to remind everyone of who he is and why he's one of the longest reigning world champions in wrestling history. So it gets a 42, which isn't great, but yeah, the whole idea behind this is Bob Backlund. This was kind of in I think a 96, 97 storyline as well. They adapted the idea of Bob Backlund being one of the greatest wrestlers in history, but because he had been gone for so long, well, not necessarily gone for so long, but the WWF crowd just kind of saw him as a relic in WWF. And that's when he had his big heel turn. He started feuding with, I think, Bret the Hitman Hart. I just kind of want to not necessarily go down that route and have him be like screw the fans and turn heel, but just kind of adapt that idea of this isn't the wrestling world he's familiar with, and this wrestling scene isn't familiar with him. He has to rebuild himself and remind everyone of who he is. So heading into this main event, it's about one person showing that they're worthy and the other reminding everyone that they're worthy of being in that top spot. And I think that makes a really interesting dynamic. So let's just hope that this main event actually performs well, because I'm really excited to see if it does. 55. I mean, not great, but and about that had great heat and decent wrestling. Well, that's good. I'll take that. Tully Blanchard defeated Bob Backlund in 12:37 by pinfall with a slingshot suplex after a distraction from Paul Ellering. So a 59 from Tully Blanchard, a 58 from Bob Backlund. They don't click, which is kind of the downfall of this match, I guess. And the match was too short, which you'll get that with an hour-long show. But Paul Ellering coming out and distracting Bob Backlund for the finish. After the match, Paul Ellering has just cost Bob Backlund the match and helped Tully Blanchard get the victory. Together, Ellering and Blanchard stand tall over Backlund, showing a united front to close out the first episode of GWA Showcase. 57 segment, which is a pretty good way to close out the show, I think. But yeah, we don't really know what's going on with Ellering and Blanchard. We'll have to wait for next week's edition of Showcase to learn a bit more. But Blanchard, to be fair, Tully Blanchard never said he wanted to go solo. He just said he didn't want to be in anyone's shadow. So he may have people working with him, but he won't be working for anyone. So he's got Ellering at his side now, which hopefully will go down really well. If we finish the show, we get a 55. We lost popularity in 11 regions. We would have gained popularity in 7 Canadian regions, but growth was restricted. That's okay. So it's more so the lost popularity in 11 regions thing that we need to focus on more. I think next week we may have to bring in Vader. Screw the finances. We need some big names on the show. We need to pull out some good ratings. We're going to click finish show now. I'm almost certain that once we make it back to the main menu, we're going to get emails about a disappointing show. I don't remember what the required show rating was, but we're going to have a look nonetheless. So if we start off by looking here, the feedback from viewers has been decent, although hardly spectacular. So yeah, we need to start making some big moves. We have a look here. IWCCW, are they someone we should worry about? They are not. We are all good. So we can delete that and that. CSP, I don't suppose we have to worry about them. Nope. USWA. No, we're all good on that front as well. Dynamite Kid's injury, and then this was Scott Armstrong signing. I decided to leave the email so you guys could see that as well. But nothing about a bad show quality, so that's really cool. We have a look here. How can we see? I'm not actually sure where we see the required rating. I'm sure if I dig through the broadcasting and negotiation settings, we'll find it there. But for now, that doesn't really matter. We lost a lot of money. Production is the real kicker. Workers did not do as well either. Oh, actually, yeah, we got to keep that in mind. 25 grand was spent on, I believe it was paying off Honky Tonk Man. So we got to keep that in mind. So workers shouldn't actually be too bad. Ticket sales got us 29,000. I might try another option soon and see how much profit we make. But sponsors we're doing pretty well in. Yeah, we got to keep tabs on all of this. But yeah, so I think what we can expect in the next episode is Vader to rock up because we need some big names. I might start signing some more people from WWF and WCW, and I know in the first episode I said I wouldn't do that because I wanted to restrict myself from signing people from those companies, with a couple of exceptions, Vader being one of them. But I think we kind of need to in order to pull out some better performances, better ratings. So yeah. With that being said, thank you guys very much for joining me for this episode. I really do appreciate it. Let me know what you guys want to see, what you thought of this episode, what you want to see in future episodes. And yeah, thank you very much for watching, and I'll see you guys next time.